they chanted and began to get a little bit louder, and they'd stop occasionally and look at the fire. Nothing. No spark. And they'd get a little louder and begin to dance around the altar. And hours upon hours went by. And they began to get exhausted as they grew louder and more frantic and more embarrassed. And Elijah, the part that I like about Elijah, a man like us maybe, was he was standing over there in the shade of one of the trees, and he was hollering at them, "Hey, maybe your God's asleep. A little bit louder and you'll wake him up." And you can imagine, you can hear those priests just cussing under their breath probably about the taunts from the prophet of God, just trying to get them to yell a little louder to get their God to bring fire down from heaven. All day long, through midday, until finally those priests, the followers of Baal, they would begin to cut themselves like was their custom, and chant and dance and frantically, crazed individuals, just going out of their minds trying to get fire from their false god. Till the people really kind of began to lose interest. And their attention was divided away from that. Till finally, at the time of the evening sacrifice, Elijah said, "Okay, that's enough. Now it's my turn." And Elijah assembled some helpers to help him build the altar of God back with the 12 stones that represented the 12 tribes of Israel. And he put the wood on top of the altar that was built out of the stones. And he got the prepared animal for the sacrifice and placed it up on top of the altar. And then he told me and instructed the helpers to do something that was rather unusual. He said, I want you to dig a trench around the altar. And they said, "What?" Yeah, dig a trench around the altar, so around, like a little moat around the altar that they built, maybe about that deep. And then he said, "I want you to go get 4 large jars of water." And they brought the water from the servants, and they poured it on top of the animal. And it ran down over the altar, ran down on the wood, and ran down the sides of the stone. He said, "Go do it again." They went back a second time, came back with 4 jars full of water. He said, "Pour it on the sacrifice." So they poured the jars on top of their water on there again, and it ran down to the animal, over the wood. He said the third time, "Go do it," until the water was so saturated, that altar and that animal and the wood, that the moat with a little ditch around the altar that they had dug was full of water. And then Elijah prayed. And this is Elijah's prayer. He stood before the people, and it was quiet. Maybe all they could hear was the sound of the water still dripping off of that soaking wet altar. No one spoke. The crowds were filled with anticipation as they heard Elijah step forward and begin to pray. And he prayed, "O Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, O Lord. Answer me so these people will know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." At the conclusion of Elijah's prayer, a bolt of lightning flashed from the sky, and it knocked everyone to their feet, and the thunderous, loud crash of lightning hurt their ears, and they fell to the ground, and the smell of sulfur, burning sulfur, was in the air. And at the conclusion, as it got quiet, when the smoke cleared and the people stumbled to their feet, they looked